Today, we discuss the new coaching hires in the Arizona Fall League with Noah Hiles. You're listening to the Bucko Banter podcast, brought to you by the Just Baseball Media Network. Cue the music.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Order steak by the plate, sending case after case. Run my race at my pace, clear the grass of the snake.
Fellas, welcome back. Big sports weekend in Pittsburgh. Pitt basketball walloped West Virginia. Pitt football hung in with Clemson closer than I thought, and the Steelers got a big dub today. And the Pirates have a hitting coach. Got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely, man. Not only do we have a hitting coach, we got a new pitching coach in town, and interesting one, right? Didn't really expect that coming at all. I know they were probably looking for a bullpen coach, and Noah down here clarified that news when it broke. So we appreciate that. And who broke the Hague news? Is that you as well?
No, that wasn't me. That was I think someone out of Toronto.
Yeah, I think
that
so.
one.
Okay. So like the inside guys over there did it. But
yeah,
man, we got a lot to talk about with the Pirates. Probably some positives too. I mean, at least it looks like a step in the right direction from like the outside looking in. But there's been other Pirates stuff in the news this week outside of the coaching hires, and that's the Paul Skeens rookie card patch, where the Pirates put out a offer. And for those of you that don't know, this is like the debut patch that's on the card. It's one of one. It's signed by Paul. It could be valued at whatever somebody's going to pay for it, right? Which apparently is going to be a lot of money. But the Pirates want that card, and they have offered 30 years of season tickets behind home plate. Where behind home plate? I don't know. I don't think it's going to be the Lexus Club if we're talking, legit luxury seats, a softball game for you and 30 of your friends, spring training, like meet and greet, exclusive tours, hang out with Paul Skeens, 2 Paul Skeens signed jerseys, all for that card. So my question to you guys, and we'll start with Noah, you pull that card tomorrow. Are you taking that deal?
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I mean, that's cool. I'm also a tough person to ask that because
sure.
I talk to Paul Skeens all the time during the season, so like a meet and greet would have a little value to me. I go to every game. I get paid to go to every game. So, it's just a different thing. Like I see the appeal to Pirate fans, but like for me, I mean, I'm looking at it like I don't have student loans if I find that card,
right.
Like that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, plus for this offer to be valuable, one, you probably have to be a Pirates fan, and 2, live in Pittsburgh. So the chances of this card being pulled in Pittsburgh already is insanely low. So like some dude in Montana cracking open cards is going to do it. He's like, that means nothing to me. It's a worthless offer. Scott, how about you?
Yeah, I would say no too, man. I think if you look at what that card could possibly go for on the market, could sell for, I think I'd want some type of monetary reward for it. We go to a lot of games. We don't obviously have the access that Noah has, but like we go to a lot of games, and we basically have season tickets anyway, and we do a lot of content. So like we're not like necessarily sitting around behind home,
right?
And I doubt that those, like you said, I doubt those seats are like Lexus Club, and we go to spring training anyways and whatnot. But yeah, just based off how valuable that card is, I think I'd want some kind of monetary reward for it.
Yeah, man, I need cash in the bank account.
Yeah,
it's tough because you can't really if it was like football, 30 years of season tickets for not just the Steelers, but any team, football tickets resale value is so much better than baseball, just because there's so many games, and how many games are people going to pay top dollar for those seats when Skeens pitches, and, you get some good fireworks night prices or whatever. But like in reality, it's just creating more work for you to sell those if you're even allowed to sell them through this deal. I mean, first off, props to the Pirates for thinking of this. Like this is great marketing on their end. At the very least, it just gets them some positive PR and, in the news. But I think if you're like a dad, right? This is a great deal for you to like take your kids to a game, to have that. But if you're someone like us in your 20s, like Man, I'll pay for my own seats. They're not that expensive anyway. Like, I'll pay for it with the money that I get from selling this thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's precedent for teams offering lowball offers out there. More recently with the Otani ball, I think the Dodgers offered like $300K for it, and it just sold at auction for $4.3 million.
Yeah.
So,
what's the lowest amount of money you guys would take for the card? If you were to pull it and the Pirates say, forget our offer, we'll pay you cash for it, what's the lowest dollar figure that you would hear and be like, that's cool?
I think for me, and Scott and I were texting hypotheticals back and forth throughout the week, I would definitely counter offer and be like, hey, I want cash. And I think the lowest amount I would take is like $300K in cash. And then I would want like a bunch of other things as well. If not, I'm just holding on to the ball for myself, or the card for myself. I'm going to put it out there and let it sell. But like, if I can capitalize off of that for Bucko banter's sake, and propel this into something with the Pirates, or like, getting interviews or media credentials or whatever over a card, like, yeah, maybe like I'd do it for the sake of what we're trying to do here. But man, I need cash. Like, you're right. Like, I don't want student loans anymore. I want to go out to dinner. Like, I need some money in the bank.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, I would probably say around like $250,000, to be honest with you. Like, I'm with the W&J, man. I need my student loans paid for. So definitely would start there. And I think that's probably the lowest, but I think it probably sells for higher than that, obviously.
Right. And that's my other thought about it too, is like, if I find that, and I won't, because like I'm just don't collect baseball cards anymore. Like, I'm not saying a word to anyone. If I were to like open a pack and see that, the first thing I'm doing is recording a video that shows like the date, the time, just to prove that like I found this. I'm saving that video, like I'm backing it up to like my iCloud. Then I'm going and buying a safe. Yes. And I'm putting that card in a safe, and I'm waiting like 2 years. And then I'm going to sell it. Like, I'm, let everyone else keep searching. That's fine. I'm just going to let it continue to appreciate in value and hope to God Skeens doesn't fall off a cliff, and ruin everything. So,
I mean, this is real life Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Right now, like, everyone's searching for the golden ticket. Like, I can't remember a time. And again, like, I've just recently got back into like collecting baseball cards and like enjoying like ripping open the packs and trying to relive some childhood stuff. But man, like, I can't remember a time as hype as this. Maybe it's because I'm more focused on the issue, and like, the more you look at something or that's closer to you, the more you see it around you. But it's truly bizarre, the value that people put on a simple card.
I'd want to manage the team for one day.
I think that's fair. I think that's
one
fair.
Day. Actually, one week. Day. 1 week.
Okay.
I'm going to pick the week.
You could say 2 months, and I'd probably say like, okay, that's
right after the deadline. Yeah. We're going to figure out what we're doing with the Spall Club.
We're making that video of Noah saying, "I'm the captain now."
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, really. Oh, also, I'd make the Miller Lite bar the Bucko Banter bar. Like, the Miller Lite sponsorship's coming down. The Bucko Banter is going up. Other than that, like, we'll work around the other details, but who knows? I got a box coming in the mail sometime, so we'll see if we pull it. If not,
if you guys find it, I would like $100.
Deal.
Swing that.
Okay.
I could swing that. I could swing $100. Yeah. Let's do it. All right.
Sweet.
Deal.
You guys, all right, that's on record.
All right. That's fair enough. $100. Scott, there's some stuff going around the Central. Not much, as we discussed off the air. Non-tender deadline is Friday at 6 p.m. So hopefully things are going to get going after that a little bit more. But walk us through what's happening around the Central right now.
Yeah, just mostly rumors. I mean, I think with the Brewers, they're obviously going to lose Willy Adames. I expect to see Joey Ortiz to slide over to shortstop next year. I don't think that's like a big secret. Max Fried has been long rumored to the Cubs. That could be a rotation addition for them. But the first signing that was done this week by the Reds, Nick Martinez, who really impressed me the last couple of weeks of the season this year. He looked really good against the Pirates, especially. He accepted the qualifying offer, 1 year, $21 million. I mean, the Reds are paying a $21 million contract to a starting pitcher. And I think he pitched most of the year out of the pen. I think he went back and forth, but I don't think he would have gotten that, obviously, in a multi-year deal. at least annually, probably like more like 12 to 15 million a year, if that. So Nick Martinez is back in the Reds rotation, and they've got some nice young pieces, man. Nick Lodolo, some other young arms that debuted this year. So, and Terry Francona is their manager. So
I was going to say that's the biggest move they're going to make all off season, right? I mean, you got to put a ton of value on that.
Yeah. And I was also going to say, with the non-tender deadline, do any of us expect any of the guys that are up that are pre-arb or, need to be signed by this deadline on the current Pirates roster? Do we expect any of them to be non-tendered?
No, you want to take that one?
Yeah, this isn't off of anything I'm hearing. This is, I think there's two guys that make sense. I think Connor Joe.
Yeah.
I feel like you just know what you have with him.
Yep.
I mean, I like Connor. He's awesome guy to talk to. And I thought he was perfect for what they asked him to be in 2023. Just a platoon bat with an above average OPS plus or above league average. Yeah. And, I think he had 20 doubles or something in 23. And he was great in April and early May, but I mean, he just wasn't, he was not a help to the team after that offensively. So I look at him and I look at De La Cruz. That's a guy where the control is really the only selling point.
Yeah.
And I understand that this was a player that was acquired for more than just 2 months of baseball. That's why you gave up, multiple prospects for him. But at the same time, it's like, are you better off just finding someone else? I don't know. I don't know. If I were to say which one's more likely, it'd probably be Joe.
Yeah,
just
for sure.
Because of the control. The De La Cruz thing would be, I think, appropriate, but I don't know if that's an aggressive move I see the Pirates making, because I don't think they're willing to punt on a guy who failed them for 2.5 months. I think that they're at the very least willing to give him another year. And I think that this is it's his first year of arbitration. So I'll run this back 1 year. And if it doesn't work, then they'll just non-tender him next year.
Yeah. We were watching the Steelers game with a friend who's actually been a host on this show before, Adam Cinco. He's a hitting coach over at Bloomsburg University, also a big Marlins fan. And we're like, hey, how did Jun-Suk Shim do this fall? He's like, absolutely terrible. He was awful. And we're like, do you want BDLC back? He said, unequivocally, no, absolutely not. I'll take my chances with anybody else. So, I mean, like, I think we all knew that to begin with when he was coming over, like what you were getting. And it just it's very underwhelming in terms of power. But yeah, I think the control and the short sample size works in his favor, right? Like screams Pirates in terms of keeping guys around. But Connor Joe is just, you're right, Noah. He was good for what they had him. He played some right field. He played some first base. He was able to DH a little bit, but at the end of the day, you know what you have in him, and he's not an everyday player as much as you'd like him to be. I think it was a couple episodes where we read off. We were doing outfield grades, and you could look at Connor Joe from beginning of the season down, and it's just hitting 310, 280, 110, 100, and it keeps going down and down. So you can't really rely on a guy like that, even off the bench at this point, if you're trying to move forward.
Right. And I think it's time to commit a full-time player to that position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think, to more on that, you have younger guys that I think might give you more value there with Billy Cook and Nick York. I don't know. Might positional versatility, might provide more at the plate. My thing with De La Cruz too, just to touch on that one last time, I think it makes a lot of sense to non-tender him, but just knowing how the Pirates operate, see how much runway they gave Rowdy Tellez last year, and the years of control, a team in this small of a market, I feel like it's unrealistic to expect them to non-tender him. But my big thing going into next year is defense, because we were one of the worst defensive teams in the league this year. And having two corner outfielders that are, I guess, good defensively will help O'Neal Cruz, especially, learning that new position and going forward. That's my big thing. I think they could be a lot better next year if they got two new corner outfielders. Because if we expect Brian Reynolds to go to first base, love to see a Tyler O'Neill in left field. And I don't know, a Conforto at right. We'll see.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's get into some current moves that the Pirates made. While there's no players being signed right now, they made two crucial moves in a hitting coach and an assistant pitching coach. Scott and I touched on the Matt Hague hire a lot last episode, but we'll talk about it briefly here. Noah, what was your initial reaction? I know when we were talking about this with you beforehand, it's kind of like throw a dart at the wall and like see who it lands on with these guys that are taking these types of positions. But former Bucko just got promoted with the Blue Jays last year to be an assistant hitting coach with the big league club after spending 4 years in the minors. What's your initial reaction and how do you think this is going to play out?
I mean, first things first, I think this was the type of hire that they had to make, like not in best interest for the team, but like this was their only real route as far as they weren't going to go out and get, for lack of a better comparison, a Brent Strom. They weren't going to go get someone with that type of resume for this position. And it's because, I mean, you look at it, if you're someone applying for this job, you're looking at a manager that's been here since 2020 and hasn't had a winning season. You're looking at a GM you could say the same thing for, and you're thinking, how much more rope do these guys have? And if they're gone after one more bad year, then I'm probably gone too. So it's a big risk, I think, for someone who would potentially be moving their family here or just uprooting their life and signing on. And it's an attractive position for someone like for someone like Hague, who has just skyrocketed through the minor league levels, reaches the majors last year. And it's kind of a no-lose situation for him. If it all works out and they make the playoffs and the offense gets better, he's going to get a lot of credit. And if it doesn't work, then the same people who have been getting blamed for the last couple of years are going to continue to get the blame. And he'll get some of it. But from the outside of Pittsburgh, no one's going to fault Matt Hague too much. If he comes here for 1 year and the Pirates don't make the playoffs, they finish with a losing record and everyone gets fired, no one's going to hold that against him. I'm sure he could go find another assistant hitting coach position very easily if it's a one and done type thing. So, that's just my original thought on just the status of the hire. But looking into it, I think there are some good things to like. I want to read a text that I got from one source in another team's front office. He just said, he's been known to generate good relationships with players, very good at generating buy-in. Hitters believed in his messaging. I think that was something that the last guy had some trouble with.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's going to be his biggest challenge here. You're going to come in and you've got a tall task list with, finding a better way to develop guys in the minor leagues, to complete guys' development, to fix some issues with guys who are going to be here for a while regardless. And you have to look at it. And if you're them, you're saying, why should I trust you? You've been in the big leagues for 1 year. And as a big leaguer, I was a more productive hitter than you. So why would I trust you? And so that ability to get guys to buy in and to trust him from the beginning, that's going to be a big first step if he can do that. The individualized hitting approach, that's something I feel like Pittsburghers have been banging the table for a long time. So hearing that from both his teammates and just people in baseball outside of, the situation, don't even necessarily know him, but just talking to people who've been around him, that's good to hear because it's got to be development. And I think my biggest hope with this hire, as someone who, I'm not a Pirate fan, but I would like to see the team do well. It'd be fun to cover playoff baseball, is that I hope that if this is their hitting coach, I hope that he has the final say when the hitting group meets to make decisions, right? I hope that, they can recognize that, maybe the way they were doing things in the past wasn't the most effective way. And if that was Andy Haynes having the most say, if that was Derek Shelton, if that was someone in the, the research and development or player development or whoever else, maybe it was a collective whole.
Sure.
But however they were doing it, maybe it's time to change that. And if you're really willing to invest in this guy, let him drive the car and see what happens. Because however the car was being driven before wasn't working. So that's what I would hope to see.
Yeah. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's like you just don't know until you know, right?
Right.
Like it's purely based off of team performance. At the end of the day, whether he establishes those relationships or not, it's like, hey, are we hitting as a collective or are we not?
Right.
And then that's how you're going to make your determination on whether or not you like Hague as the hitting coach. But until then, let's think of the positives. I like everything that you mentioned about the individualized plans and getting along with the players and maybe having a little bit more of a close relationship that they didn't have with Haynes. But man, like we'll see. I know Clint Hurdle commented on your post on Twitter or X saying like, hey, we'll see. Like, I like what he has done with his minor league work and I've heard good things, but we'll just see if it's transferable to major league hitters. Like, that's at the end of the day, that's all it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I will say, like, this process of hiring a pitching coach or a hitting coach, it's not like hiring a manager, because you hear all these rumors who they're talking to and whatnot. And we had no idea. I mean, I don't know if you did know it, but like we had no idea who they were talking to or who was a candidate. So it was an interesting hire. I honestly didn't know he was an assistant hitting coach with Toronto this year. And he's young. Like you said, it's kind of like a win-win situation for him, or no lose situation for him. But I loved everything I read about him. The New York Times article talked about the individualized hitting approaches. And, I firmly believe that there is no cookie cutter way to managing or to coaching or whatever. Like, you have to get to know guys and then you dive into how you can help them improve and help develop them. So I loved everything I read about him. Whether that will transfer, we'll see. Like you said, he's got a very tall task list with Cabrian Hayes. Can he turn Jared Triolo into a more consistent hitter? Because if that's the case, that this guy is going to be a big time player for this team, just given how good he is defensively. So we'll see. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they do this spring and into the season. But all positive so far from what I've read.
And the final note I have on him real quick is just like, it's so hard to kind of project how things are going to go, right? Because you compare him to the past hires, those guys have more of a track record. You can look to see how their previous teams were coached. You can hear, they worked with this player, they worked with that player. I mean, this guy doesn't have any of that. You can judge him by his team's offensive numbers in the minor leagues, but was he fully in charge of how the Buffalo, Bison or whatever their team name is in AAA? Probably not, and he's also not in control of who they have in AAA. If he had good prospects there, or if they just had a whole bunch of, 4A guys or whatever. So you can look at trends and everything like that, but he's preaching another man's gospel, where now this is his opportunity to, teach his own methods. So it'll be interesting. It's unsettling, I guess, if for a fan base that was probably looking for something a lot more established, like the next guy I'm sure we're going to talk about. But if you could compare it to anything in this town, because Yinzers love local comparisons, it's kind of like Cade Bell hire at Pitt. It's different than anything that this regime has done as far as hires at this position. It's not an old guy with experience and familiarity in the NL Central. This is a guy, I mean, he played in the NL Central, but this is a new guy, new era baseball type of coach who's vastly unproven. And, it could be something that saves a lot of jobs or costs a lot of jobs, depending on how it goes.
Well, speaking about old guys with experience, I think that's a good transition. Scott, they made a new hire, which the guy right below me broke the news. Why don't you walk us through who this hire is, and then we'll kind of get into the resume and how we think this is going to affect the ball club.
Yeah, I mean, Brent Strom, that's a big name in baseball. One of the best pitching coaches of the last decade. He has been in 4 of the last 8 World Series as a pitching coach, I believe, with the Diamondbacks last year. And then he was with the Astros from 14 to 21, I believe. So, he's been widely regarded as one of the best pitching coaches. A lot of guys rave about him. Dallas Keuchel, Justin Verlander, all those guys from the Astros years. Even the Diamondbacks, like Zach Gallen and those guys, they all
Charlie Morton.
So I'm really excited because we have a really good young staff, and I'm really excited to see them start working with him. And I think highly of Oscar Marine, but to have an older presence, a veteran presence in the game, be able to lend advice there and maybe a different perspective because he's been there. I think that's exciting. I wish they would have taken this approach too on the hitting side, because that's where we've struggled the most. Like Marine and Strom, very good tandem. Maybe have a veteran guy too on the hitting side with Matt Hague. Like maybe hire more guys. Noah, you brought this idea up to us on a previous episode. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the hire. Maybe they can do that again too on the hitting side. I don't know if that's in the cards, but just an idea.
I love it, man. Noah, you had a quote maybe probably 5 episodes back now when we were just starting to talk about like free agency and who's out there. And you said, you can't do it with a bunch of guys that haven't been there before.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy that has certainly been there in the big moments coaching. And he's seen, as Scott mentioned, really good Cy Young pitchers go through his system and been there in those key moments. So you got a guy that's been there. You got a guy that knows that feeling. He's had a taste of playoff baseball, of World Series baseball, of winning a World Series. So hopefully he could bring that vibe and that energy to a locker room to help guys kind of understand like, hey, like this is the goal and this is what it's like to get there. And this is what you need to do, or you need to know, or how you need to go about your business in order to make it work. So I'm all on board. I don't see any negatives to this really. I know like he's like an older guy and he's not like what we've talked about with like a younger guy that's going to like relate, but it seems like from what he's done in past years, he's really been able to adjust to the times with like all the data and the analytics and combine that with like a feel for the game, which is really helpful, especially for guys coming into the league like Skeens and Jared Jones.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I have a lot of notes on this one because I think this has the potential to be one of the best things Charrington's done in Pittsburgh. So like, I want to go back to what you guys talked about. I mean, I asked Ben about this in his end of season presser. And we talked about it on this show about a month ago. It's create new positions. You don't just have to have the same amount of staff, be it on your coaching staff, in your front office, wherever. And that's what they did here. This is a new thing that they did. It's a new assistant pitching. He's not replacing anyone, right? This isn't a guy who took Justin Message's job. This is something new. And they're doubling down on things they already do well, which I think is very smart. Because when you're in a situation like the Pirates, I mean, clearly, if you look at this rebuild they've gone through, they did things very well on one side of the game, and on the other side of the game, they didn't do very well with. And while, yes, you should absolutely be looking to fix what you've been doing wrong, you can't just completely neglect what's been going right. You've got to continue to add and become more innovative and get better at that. And that's what this does. I mean, you guys brought up the age, right? And this isn't like the new age, whatever. This guy excels at the young guy stuff, though, right? I mean, I feel like, it wasn't long ago where he was preaching pitching strategies, analytics, just ways to think about the way you throw a baseball that was more innovative than anyone else in the sport when he was the oldest person at his position in the sport. So that's a great hire. I think this is, just looking at the layout of this is probably something he views to be his final project, his going away tour, if you will. And it's something that's probably a little less formal than being a head pitching coach. And I think that he's just going to be their special projects guy. In our industry, I would refer to him as an enterprise writer, where he's not a beat writer, where he's going to every single game and writing 20 stories a week. This is a guy who's going to write 2 stories a week, but they're going to be bangers. You're going to show up and log on and hope to read his insightful, work that you're not going to find anywhere else. That's why you hire someone like this. And, people, obviously, you draw connections to Skeens. This is great. Yeah, he's going to make Skeens so much better. But if you look at his track record, like the names you've thrown out, there's something to buy into for everyone here. Are you a young guy who's vastly unproven and still developing? There are a lot of success examples for someone in your shoes. Are you a superstar who's looking to unlock that next level of your game? There are a lot of examples for this. Are you an old guy who's looking to reinvent yourself to remain on top or get back to once where you were? There are a lot of examples for that as well. So this guy can help so many different people. And, again, It's going to be good to see Jared Jones develop a third pitch with this guy. It's going to be good for Mitch Keller to develop durability here. But the ones that I'm excited to see work with this guy are the Kyle Nicholases of the world, are the David Bednars of the world, are the Carmen Majinskis of the world, who have those flashes, right? We watch them one homestand, and you're just like, this is a guy who is so much better than anyone else they have in that bullpen. And then another week comes by and they look like anyone could hit them. And this guy's going to help them fix these things. And my final point on this whole rant is I think the Pirates already had guys who could have fixed these problems or made these improvements. But one thing, like I've been preaching with this, is credibility matters. And there's no one who has more credibility for what this man is being paid to do than this man, right? He knows what he's doing. And, you know, for a guy like Jared Jones to have the same people he's worked with his whole career tell him, hey, you need to throw your curveball more. You need to work on your curveball more. He might just be comfortable enough to be like, you know what? No, like I like what I'm doing here. There might be some pushback, but for this new guy to come in and tell him like, no, this is what I did with Zach Greinke. This is what I did with Justin Verlander. This is how I helped Dallas Keuchel win a Cy Young. Just an outside voice. And not to say that there's a ton of distrust. I think the pitching group is doing a really good job of having that investment already, but this makes it even easier. If you're going to try to pitch someone like Braxton Ashcraft and maybe be in your bullpen next year, having this guy pitch you that idea and sell you on it is going to make it easier, I think. And so there's just so many good things that I think can come out of it. He hasn't had a success with everyone, obviously. You can point out the spider tax stuff. You can point out what happened with Montgomery this year in Arizona. Yeah. But I mean, in the words of Jordan Belfort, judge him for his wins and not his, or judge him for his losses, not his wins, because he has so few. Right, so follow that.
Yeah, I mean, good stuff, man. I mean, talk about him contributing at the right time. You got guys like Bubba Chandler, who you expect to contribute this year too. What better for Thomas Harrington as and how Noah mentioned Ashcraft, and just adding different baseball minds to the room, right? Bouncing ideas off of each other and making it more of a collaborative effort, I think is what we're looking for here, instead of it just kind of being spearheaded by one person, right? You want more baseball minds, more baseball experience in order to put out a successful result. Noah, you mentioned unlocking the next level, and I think a perfect example of that is Garrett Cole. Right. Garrett Cole.
That's what I was getting at. Yes.
Right. He found success in Pittsburgh, but like there was always something more there that wasn't getting there. And then when he went to Houston, he learned how to utilize the top of the zone with his fastball. Mm-hmm. And guess who the pitching coach was there in Houston? So it's like, this is so key for a guy like Skeens, where you're like, what could this guy possibly do in the offseason to make himself better? It's like, well, there's probably a lot of things now that we don't even know as just like, you know, a beat writer, podcasters, like an outside baseball fan, like just like the small, tiny details in the game that a Strom could pick out that nobody else can. So, or somebody that's been around for a long time. So, man, I couldn't be more excited about this.
One final note too, if you guys have time, or any of the listeners have time, check out Astro Ball by Ben Ryder. It's a book I read from like 2017. It came out like right after their first World Series, and I think there's a whole section on Brent Strom. That's when I was introduced to him, and about like him being like this great pitching coach. And it talks about him finding the most out of Garrett Cole and other guys on that staff. Really fun read. Obviously the scandal came out shortly after that book was written, but still there's some good stuff in there, especially about Strom. So,
I mean, this is a guy
to let us know that you read books, man. That's crazy.
Shout out.
Yeah.
This is a guy who, I think a lot of people heard the term spin rate for the first time because of this guy. Yeah. Stuff like that. And my final point would be, I have two final points. One, like I said, I thought what the Pirates were preaching and coaching was working, but just adding a different, like they're different philosophy, a different way to coach it, and different things. Like I think DiNardo pointed this out. It's like, this is something different than just the two-seamer slider. This is a guy who can bring what he was teaching in Houston and help round these guys out, or not put everyone in the same box, a trap that they fell into with their last good pitching coach. So that's one thing I'd point out. And the other thing is just on the note of Skeens, because I don't want to overplay that, or I don't want to bury that, I should say, because I highlighted more of the other stuff. Paul's going to love this guy, because Paul, above everything else, is a pitching nerd. He wants to talk to people who understand this craft just as well as him, if not more. And this is someone I highly anticipate getting down to Bradenton in February and watching him be attached at the hip with Strom. He's going to try to be learning everything possible from him because Paul likes these guys. I mean, you hear how he talks about his college baseball coach and that resume that
Jay
he had.
Johnson.
Yeah, right. And so I just think that this is going to help them a lot.
Yeah.
Really pumped, man. Really pumped. Scott, you got anything else?
No, that's really it. I'm really excited for Strom, and I'm excited to see him work with a lot of these arms. And Noah, we talked about this yesterday when we met up at the pit game. Kyle Nicholas is someone because I've always been really high on Kyle Nicholas. I'm so excited to see him work with Strom. So,
and Bednar, those are my two.
Bednar, yeah.
Those two are gonna be a lot better, I think.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Well, there is baseball going on right now. I think, unfortunately, it's come to an end. So we're not going to be seeing any baseball right now. And I mean, if you want to tune into like the US and watch Termarr Johnson play, that's still going on. But in terms of affiliated ball with the major leagues and the ball club, the Arizona Fall League has come to a close, but we have a lot to report on. Starting on Monday, 5-2 W versus the Sagueros. Sammy Ciani continues to stay hot. This game, he went 1-for-4, but he's batting .397. And Linares earned the hold, 1 1/3, 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 K. Got an ERA of .87.
Yeah, big week for the Scottsdale Scorpions. I think they finished above 500. Obviously, they lost in the first week of the first game of the playoffs. But Tuesday, they played the Mesa Solar Sox, 1-11-2. Ciani went 1-for-4 again with a run, an RBI, and a walk. Brennan Bidwa went 1 inning, 2 hits, 2 Ks. And that's Tuesdays when they reached 500. They were 14-14. So
I can't believe they reached 500.
I know. They looked horrible.
Really bad. The Javelinas, 12-3 W. Ciani with another hit, 2 runs, an RBI, double, 3 walks, man. Kervin Pichardo, 1-for-4 with a triple. Giovanni Plancher, 0-for-2 with 1 RBI and 2 walks. And then Christian Curtis, friend of the pod, earned his second hold. He's really turned it around the back half of the Arizona Fall League. 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned, 3 Ks, 1 walk, and a home run, which brings us to Thursday's W against the Javelinas.
Thank you for pronouncing Javelinas for me because I don't know
somebody's got to
do it. No, Scottsdale won the last regular season game 7-6. Sammy Ciani went 1-for-5 with 2 runs, a double, and 2 stolen bases. He had 6 this fall, by the way. Finished at .375. Pichardo went 3-for-4 with a double, 3 RBIs. He had 2 throwing errors this game, but he finished with a .309 average. Plancher went 0-for-3 with a walk, and then Eddie Yean earned his third hold. He went 1 2/3, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 1 K. Eddie Yean's another guy that we could possibly see working with Strom this year. So
sure. And Friday was a playoff game. They lost 13-4 against the Salt River Rafters. Hate the Salt River Rafters. Ciani, yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Can you believe it, dude? I had all my money riding on it too.
Yeah.
Crazy. Sammy Ciani 1-for-5 with 2 Ks. Kervin Pichardo 0-for-3. Blanchard 0-for-3. Derek Diamond 1 inning pitch, 2 hits, 4 earned, 1 walk, 1 K, and gave up a bomb. That's probably his worst outing.
He started too, yeah.
Yeah, he had a great fall. Bidwa, 3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned, 1 walk, 3 Ks. And Linares, 2 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned, 2 walks, 5 Ks. And if you recall, Termarr Johnson was with this team. Now he is with Team USA. I highly recommend going over to our network podcast, The Call Up with Jack and Aram. They interviewed Termarr Johnson last week, and it was really, really refreshing to watch a guy that's 20 years old talk about his approach at the plate and how he goes about his business. Talk about a guy, like he mentions, playing up a level his entire life. So like he's not, he's used to being in the moment. And while he's had his struggles, he's still 20 years old and with an advanced approach. I'm really excited to see what he does going into this year, but highly recommend going to watch that interview.
He has no shortage of confidence at all.
Oh,
I'll just say
absolutely none. Yeah. Yeah. But hey, guys, not much else to talk about. Hopefully there's some moves made. Noah, you mentioned it on this podcast at some point. Like, let's just put out an offer that like they can't refuse, right? Like let's get ahead of the curve and just show that we're serious right off the bat. Hopefully that happens. It's been quiet. The water has been steady. So maybe BC's up to something.
Maybe. My final thoughts were going to be, I thought we were going to fill out the D3 football playoff bracket, but I guess not.
We don't have 5 hours to do
Well,
that.
I mean,
WJ all the way.
If everyone wanted to list their final four, that'd be fun, but no big deal. It's not my show.
I got Washington and Jefferson going all the way.
The
and
presidents,
then,
baby.
All right.
Richie Quacks.
Mount Union as well. So
well, they're in the same quadrant, so that's
I got them
damn.
playing in the semifinals, and then
if
you
they
guys
play if they meet in the quarterfinals, we got to do something together.
We're absolutely doing something.
We can go to Alliance for it. I'll show you around town. Take you to Chives, the other bars there. Just mainly Chives. Yeah,
because we definitely don't want to go to bars in Washpaw because that's just not a great place. But I will add one more thing. We have the awards being on this week. We have the Rookie of the Year being announced tomorrow. Paul Skeens, Jackson Trio, Jackson Merrill. I believe Adam and I are going to be live for that with the Bridge to Bucktober guys and Jim Rosati. So that'll be fun. And then Cy Young is announced this week too, correct?
Wednesday, yes.
Wednesday. So Paul Skeens is also a finalist for that, along with Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler. Really like his chances for Rookie of the Year, obviously, but pretty cool that he is a finalist for Cy Young in his Rookie year.
Yeah, I think the Cy Young's probably a stretch with
Sale
being it's going to be Sale, but the Rookie of the Year is, I think, right now a lock, but who knows at this point. We appreciate everybody listening. If you don't already, go follow us on all the social media. Blue Sky is a new thing. Okay, it's kind of like Twitter, but not. So go over.
We got rid of our Truth Social. We moved over to Blue
Sky. This natural transition of things. Go follow us over at Blue Sky. I know Noah has a Blue Sky now as well.
I do. I'm still on X. I'm still on X for the people who get mad.
Yeah.
I'm still on X. I'm just trying to be everywhere.
This week.
Yeah.
We got to spread the news as best as we can, get the word out there about the Pittsburgh Pirates. So go follow us on Blue Sky Social. I've had a good experience with it so far. We'll see how long it lasts. And then go to the Bucko Banter store, buy your merch. And until next time, raise it.
Raise it.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Or the steak by the plates and